Welcome to another episode of Dare to Think. You know, I find it absolutely strange how we manage to learn anything anytime. I mean, really, because it just so happens that a lot of us know how to do things. O sea, ¿cuántos de ustedes no tuvieron clases de piano? Clases de karate, clases de fútbol, clases de béisbol, clases de gimnasia, clases de baile. Like all of us had these things, and our parents made us. It's curious how, for some reason, your parents like took a devoted interest in like making you do something, which is difficult to do because children. I don't know how you were as kids, but I like generally never liked to do anything. And then I did. I loved to. Like, I wouldn't want to get into the shower, and then I would get in the shower and I wouldn't want to get out. Imagine making anybody, especially a child, do something that they don't actually want to do. Why do I say this? I need to slow down a little because I'm a bit hyper. I learned to play the guitar recently. And I learned to play the guitar, but I bought my guitar in 2020. It's 2022. And I can barely play songs. I've had my guitar for a long time, but I haven't been able to play. When it was 2017 when I started playing the ukulele, but I didn't learn how to play the ukulele. I literally just had it in my hands and started going at it. And whenever I did do any of these things, my mom and my dad always reminded me of a story about my childhood, which is that I'm a bit obsessive about things sometimes. So, for example, I loved wheels when I was a kid. So I would sit in front of my dad's bicycle when it was turned upside, or I would turn it upside down. And then I would love to like move it so that the back wheel would move really quickly and then just watch it. And it was a really good bicycle. So it would last for like 10 to 15 minutes of me just relentlessly just staring at it. And it was because I wanted to figure out how it works. And I got pretty good at fixing bikes at some point. Like I can probably figure out what's wrong with a bicycle if I just, play around with it enough. And then it stopped being important to me, which is because I stopped riding a bicycle because my bicycle wasn't, I outgrew my bicycle and the new one was broken. The point being, I stopped. The same thing with swimming. I was a very good swimmer, still am a very good swimmer, but I was like competitively a good swimmer. I won medals, when I was a kid in competitions and stuff. And I used to swim a lot. I used to swim for my classes, and my dad had classes after me, and I would stay for his classes too and swim. And it was wonderful. I remember loving swimming. And for some time, I had forgotten what liking something was in those terms. So the point of this is that you learn, and I start like connecting all these dots. Like I learned to podcast, and I learned to speak in public, and I learned to swim, and I learned to play football, and I learned to make friends, and I learned a lot of things, but all of them had something in common, which is that I learned to love the struggle of them. And I think that's what I want to talk about today, which is we struggle every day. And we are so we're so averse towards all these things. Like if I have to get up earlier than I have to, it's always a problem. Like I've realized that getting up really early is not necessarily a problem for me, but it's not something I love. But when I was a kid, I used to get up really early because it was just my reality. But the same thing goes for like, we're going to go to this place. It's really far away. And you don't want to go. Or, I have to sit through 4 hours of class. You used to through 12. So what's wrong? Why is it that we have become like disenfranchised with, or at least I have become disenfranchised with the idea of struggling? And it's that we forgot what it means because the gain goes too far away. So this goes a bit into dopamine, and I think that if you want to be better informed in this, you should go to the Huberman Lab podcast, okay? He has a lot better information than I have. I would probably be saying much of what he says, which is that you need to understand your dopamine system. Your dopamine system is in charge of telling you what you're doing and how you're doing it right. And so I have always had a problem with going to the gym because it was one of those things that I never really learned how to do properly, or that I never really learned how to like. because I have no problem doing hard stuff like, I don't know, playing volleyball or doing a hard sport or working really hard. Like this summer, I worked for 5 weeks with very little to no sleep and pretty bad nutrition, and I loved it. And I loved it until I dropped. Literally, like I was sick after it because it was way too hard, but I loved it. And it's not like I don't like to work at the gym. It's like I don't find the purpose to it. I don't feel like it connects to who I am. I don't see the line where I'm walking through. I can't even build one. And then recently, in the past few weeks, I've gotten to the gym, and like the first thing that I do is I run. And I run at least in 10 minutes. I have to run 1K, which is, 1 mile. It's a mile a minute. So it's not a mile a minute. It's a kilometer in 10 minutes. It's not too difficult to run. But then I did this for like a week. And then the next week I said like, okay, now you need to make better. Like it's always going to be 10 minutes. How far can I go in 10 minutes? I didn't know. And the problem is that when I was a kid, I used to run for school. We had the evaluation. It's called Prueba de Resistencia, where you had to run. And it was 12 minutes. And I used to always suck at it. Like literally suck really hard. Like I remember the best one that I ever did. I did it drunk, which is kind of why it was the greatest one that I ever did. And I couldn't believe that I was running. And I couldn't believe that I was running with pleasure. And I remember that I just watched the Huberman Lab podcast, or maybe Modern Wisdom with Chris Williamson, both highly recommended. And I remember thinking, and somebody said, it was Huberman, and he said, the thing is that if you put a goal and you reach, like if you say, for example, I'm going to run a mile, and after I run my mile, I'm going to eat some chocolate. Then when you finish like running the mile and you eat that chocolate, the dopamine level that you have drops. Like that you drop your baseline, meaning that the next time that you do it, it'll be less pleasurable. And so in time, even if you have a lot of willpower, it'll become increasingly worse for you. And what he says is that the best way that you can get yourself in track, the best way that you can start to like these things, is that when it gets really hard, and he uses an example about running. He says, if they did an experiment on people where they put them on treadmills and they made them run, okay? And they said, without purpose at all, they didn't tell them how much they were going to run, they just told them to run. And these people stopped running at some point. Like somewhere between the 20-minute, 30-minute mark, everybody had stopped running already. And there was a reason for this. If you don't have a goal in mind, if there isn't a purpose for why you were doing this, then there's a hormone that builds up in your brain that literally just shuts you down. It's like, stop, man. This burning of calories is for no good reason, and you should stop. You're wasting your energy. It's logical, evolutionarily speaking. If you can't see the goal, if you don't know why you're doing something and you're wasting a lot of energy, a part of your brain will tell you like, hey, bro, that's not good. You need to stop that. And then he says, this is what you have to do. When you're running, it will get hard. There will come a point when you're running that you will say, I should stop doing this, or my legs hurt, or I should be doing something else. That moment you stop, not actually stop, you stop your brain and you say, this is the hard part. And you smile and you keep running. You learn to enjoy that, oh my God, I'm doing something hard. I'm reaching the limits of what I've ever been able to do. This is hard. This is good. It's like magic. I swear to God, it's incredible how it's like, okay, I'm going to reach the 10 minutes. And you do, and you're like, but I can do 10 more. And I have another workout to do, so I don't keep doing 10 minutes. But it's like, okay, now my goal is how far can I go in 10 minutes? Like, can I do 1.5K in 10 minutes? Can I do 2K in 10 minutes? It's a hell of a lot. And I think it's possible with that mindset. And I think that's crazy. And the same thing goes for playing the guitar. You play one song and then it gets really hard because your fingers start to hurt a lot. And like you feel like you're going to bleed, and then you can't play this chord, and so you can't play the song, and you get all in your brain about it. And that moment you stop and you say, this is the hard part. You smile and you keep going. And it's crazy. I've learned more songs on the guitar in less than 3 months that I've learned in the ukulele since 2017. It's crazy, and I don't know where it comes from, but I feel like people should know this. And maybe I'm crazy that I didn't know this before. But then I've had all these things that I used to like when I was younger that I didn't like now that I do. Like, for example, I love waking up early, and I installed one of these lights that change color. This one that's right here actually can't change it because I can't connect it to the Wi-Fi because it's a bit older. But the one like inside of my room changes color, and I've programmed it to wake me up in the morning. So at 6:30 in the morning, the light turns on, and I don't wake up groggy. I wake up like, it's like you wake up with an alarm, and it's like, oh my God, this is so difficult, so hard. I'm waking up. Whenever I wake up with a light, I don't wake up like that. I wake up like somebody, pressed the button and I turned on. And it's not like, oh, I'm perfect, I'm gonna get up. It's like, oh, I still want to sleep, but then I have enough clarity of mind to say, oh, this is the hard part, and I get up and I take a shower. It's crazy. I highly recommend the Huberman Lab podcast because the man is amazing. He is really a true scientist who has this, he has a vocation to tell you as much as he can, to distill as much scientific knowledge as possible and to bring it to the public. And I think that's just beautiful. I'm going to end every episode thanking someone. And in this case, I want to thank my parents. And it's going to sound weird, but I started this episode talking about how hard it is to make a child do something that they don't want to do. And my parents, not only did they make me do things that I didn't want to do, they also made me love them. I don't know what my life would be like today if I didn't love soccer. I love soccer. And if you've watched the podcast before, you know how I feel about my football teams. They are a part of who I am. It's a skill that I love. Swimming is a skill that I love. But also meditating is a skill that I love. Waking up in the morning is a skill that I love. And all of these things are things that my parents just made me like. And I can't thank them enough. And I'm going to go into a little bit more before I finish. I want to thank my dad specifically for the physical effort, for getting up in the mornings, for going and swimming, for football. But my mom, she came to every game. She taught me how to meditate. She was there in the most frustrating times. And I think both of them deserve more than thanks. I think that struggling and doing things that are actually difficult make your life really meaningful. And I think that if we could all trick ourselves into liking the struggle, then maybe it would be a bit easier to dare to think. I'll see you again next week. And thank you so much.